Can I please see your driver's license? It is. There's a camera.
You got a camera?
And there's cameras all up here. Yep.
Let me see the camera.
Cameras are right here, Tammy. Okay, let's go this way. Come on.
Go, baby.
Come on.
What's up, baby?
Come on, please.
This baby.
Come on, walk for me, please.
In August of 2023, former adult film star turned OnlyFans model Brandy Talore was arrested in Findlay, Ohio, for contributing to the delinquency of a minor. Specific details about the incident leading up to Talore's arrest were not mentioned in news reports, although a commenter on X wrote that Talore's son's truancy got her caught up. She was sentenced to 90 days for the offense. In the meantime, Talore's 20-year-old daughter, Amelia, created a GoFundMe in hopes of receiving help covering household expenses. On the fundraising webpage, Amelia wrote that Brandy was the household's sole source of income, leaving her 3 kids to fend for themselves in her absence. The crowdfunding campaign garnered $970 in donations before it was closed. Talore has since been released from jail and is back on social media. Her followers were quick to notice that she's lost a lot of weight, which she attributed to health issues and depression. In September of 2024, roughly a year after her arrest, she wrote that the past 6 months had been difficult, but that her health was on the mend and she was doing much better. Number 16. Michelle Chapman, aka Tori Black. A drunken argument over formula turned into an all-out brawl between adult film star Tori Black and her husband in January of 2012 resulted in their arrests on domestic violence charges. Officers responded to the couple's room at the Hard Rock Hotel during the early morning hours after receiving a report about a dispute. Black, whose real name is Michelle Chapman, told the police that she and her husband, Lindell Anderson, began arguing after she returned to the room during the early morning hours because Anderson was taking care of their child and didn't have enough breast milk. She admitted that she had been drinking and said that the disagreement became physical when Anderson called her an unfit mother. The 2-time AVM Performer of the Year award winner accused Anderson of shoving her into a wall and admitted to punching him in the back of the head. While reviewing surveillance video, police witnessed footage of Anderson pushing Black with so much force that she flew across the hallway outside their room. Both parties were arrested on suspicion of domestic battery. Number 15. Rasheeda Johnson Turner. Also known as Ms. Feisty, 37-year-old Rasheeda Johnson Turner was arrested in Los Angeles, California in late 2017 for allegedly trying to hire a hitman to kill her 55-year-old boyfriend, identified in court documents as LG. According to authorities, Turner planned to pay the hired assassin with the proceeds of the victim's $150,000 life insurance policy. Unbeknownst to Turner, the person she had gone to in search of a hitman had contacted the FBI. Turner had told the informant that she had obtained pure acid, but that she was scared to commit the murder herself because she feared criminal charges. In late 2017, Turner contacted the informant again and pressured them to get the job over with, stating, "That fly needs to be swatted." The intended victim was getting to know a new woman, and she was worried that he might change the beneficiary of his life insurance policy. Turner promised the informant a $50,000 share of the insurance proceeds and paid a $500 deposit, at which point she was swarmed by federal agents and taken into custody on a murder-for-hire charge. In early 2018, Turner pleaded guilty to using interstate phone lines with the intent of setting up murder for hire. She served 4.5 years in federal prison and was released in 2022. Number 14. Tammy Walther, aka Ainsley Adams. On New Year's Day 2023, police responded to a report about a driver swerving between lanes somewhere in Florida. They pulled the vehicle over and came face to face with Tammy Walther, also known as Ainsley Adams, who almost immediately admitted to driving on a suspended license.
Can I please see your driver's license? You alright?
Yeah, I mean, I just have a driver's license.
You what?
My driver's license is suspended.
Your license is suspended?
Yes.
Okay, so you don't have a driver's license.
Yes.
Whose car is this?
This is mine.
This is your car? What's your name?
Tammy.
Tammy what?
Waffle.
Tammy Waffle?
Yes, sir.
During the traffic stop, a neighbor came over and told the police that Walther had urinated in her yard. She also said that Walther was staggering around and appeared to be intoxicated, which was likely already evident to the officer based on Walther's slurred speech. Not to mention the fact that she was in her underwear and didn't have a good reason for her lack of clothing. Walther refused to put bottoms on, and it only became more evident as the conversation continued that she was completely out of touch with reality. She was unable to answer basic questions and became belligerent toward the cops, raising her voice as she demanded to know what they wanted. The visibly inebriated woman repeatedly told the police to stop patronizing her and to arrest her. As Walther became increasingly agitated and unpredictable, the responding officers decided to handcuff her for everyone's safety. During the drive down to booking, she yelled at the officer who was driving to slow down.
You dead mother. You dead. You dead mother. You dead. You know you dead mother. You dead.
Sit for me.
You dead mother. Dead mother. Dead mother. You dead.
Tammy.
Her behavior only worsened at the police station, where multiple officers worked together to restrain her as she lashed out in hysterics. Walther was charged with driving on a suspended license and driving under the influence. Number 13. Timothy Harper, aka Cameron Diggs, known to his fan base as Cameron Diggs. 29-year-old gay porn star and white supremacist Timothy Harper was arrested in February 2017 during a methamphetamine raid in Dallas, Texas. He and 3 others were apprehended by SWAT teams, who uncovered more than 1,600 grams of the drug during the bust, along with scales and packaging. Harper reportedly admitted to ordering and receiving drugs and was charged with manufacture or delivery of a controlled substance. His arrest came just months after he was banned from numerous adult websites due to his controversial beliefs and the Nazi symbols tattooed on his body. After people initially started noticing the nature of Harper's ink, his employer suggested issuing a statement to clear his name. Harper said, "I believe people should want to be proud of who they are and where they come from." He went on to state that when it comes to having kids, he prefers to stay within his own race. And while he denied that there were any hateful sentiments behind his words, the statement wasn't exactly what Harper's employee had in mind. Not long after that, websites began dropping Harper left and right. His arrest in the meth raid only served to further tarnish his image. In September of 2019, news sources reported that he was convicted of distributing methamphetamine. Records show that he was released from federal prison in 2023. Number 12. Luna Lane. In June of 2022, 40-year-old former adult actress Luna Lane was arrested for child endangerment and possession of a controlled substance. Officers responded to her Glendale, California residence after receiving a report about a child who wasn't breathing. As paramedics rushed the baby to the hospital, they noticed signs of possible drug intoxication. They administered Narcan and the child immediately responded, indicating that they had in fact ingested opioids. Upon arriving at the emergency room, Lane refused to let doctors treat the child and left. Worried for the baby's well-being, emergency personnel returned to Lane's residence, where they found the little one in a lethargic state. The child was immediately taken back to the hospital. On the way, EMTs administered a second dose of Narcan, and the child was subsequently taken into protective custody to prevent another incident. Number 11. Katalin Erzsebet Bradacs. In August 2021, Italian authorities charged Hungarian former adult film star Katalin Erzsebet Bradacs with murder for the death of her toddler son. The victim, Alex Juhas, was found with mortal stab wounds on a supermarket checkout counter in the central province of Umbria. 44-year-old Bradacs screamed for help and later denied any involvement in her son's death, even after a bloody knife was found in her purse. She continued to maintain her innocence even after being charged with the crime, and despite claims from witnesses that she had mistreated her son the day before his murder. Bradacs spent the next 2 years in pre-trial detention. During that time, she confessed to killing little Alex. According to prosecutors, she committed the horrific act in a premeditated fashion out of a desire for revenge against the boy's father, whom she had recently separated from. Just a week before the murder, Bradacs' ex had won full custody of the boy. The admitted killer's disdain for her ex was evident during one of her hearings when she was removed from the courtroom for repeatedly interrupting his testimony. In May of 2023, Bradacs was convicted of murder. The prosecutor urged the judge to impose a 30-year prison term, but she was sentenced to 20 years behind bars after judges took her mental illness into consideration. Number 10. Jesse Spencer, also known as Mr. Marcus. 42-year-old adult actor and director Jesse Spencer was arrested in 2012 after he knowingly exposed at least 2 female co-stars to syphilis without informing them that he had the disease. According to authorities, he presented the women with altered medical paperwork to make it appear as though he was infection-free several days after he had tested positive. In June of 2013, Spencer pleaded no contest to charges stemming from the incident in a Los Angeles courtroom. He was sentenced to 30 days in jail, followed by 3 years of probation. A year later, Spencer was ordered to pay a $130,000 judgment to Lilith LeVay, one of the co-workers who had been exposed to the disease. Number 9. Alexis Morgan. In September 2024, Jordanian police stormed the hotel room of 27-year-old OnlyFans model Alexis Morgan in the middle of the night. She would later tell the media that the internet connection was suddenly cut before the cops banged on her door in Wadi Rum at 3 in the morning. Law enforcement took all of Morgan's electronic devices and she couldn't understand what they were saying due to a language barrier, making the situation all the more confusing. After finally reaching the police station and speaking with a translator, Morgan learned that she was accused of making explicit content during her trip to the country, where doing so is a crime, punishable by up to 6 months in prison. She was held for 17 hours by heavily armed officers despite maintaining her innocence. Morgan later said it was obvious that everyone in the police station was watching her videos and looking at her photos while they scrolled through her phone. She claimed that she was taken to court and forced to speak to the judge without a lawyer. The judge allowed Morgan to return to her hotel, but banned her from leaving the country. She spent the next 2 weeks living in fear while an investigation was carried out. Finally, after failing to find any evidence that she had produced adult content during her stay in Jordan, the authorities allowed her to return home to Miami. Speaking with the Daily Star following her return to the United States, Morgan described feeling traumatized by the experience, which had caused the travel enthusiast to become a mentally drained shut-in. Number 8. Othman Al-Muttalaby, aka Ali Liam. In November of 2017, 27-year-old gay adult film star Othman Al-Muttalaby, aka Ali Liam, and Al-Quraishi Ali was charged with the murder of his boyfriend, 48-year-old Keith Harris, who was stabbed to death in the couple's San Francisco home. According to prosecutors, Al-Muttalaby was upset over a discussion with Harris about the possibility of him being admitted to a mental health facility. He supposedly believed that Harris would leave him if he sought inpatient treatment, prompting him to stab Harris to death as he slept. By the time police arrived, Al-Muttalaby had fled the scene in an Uber. He got sick during the ride and the driver dropped him off at the hospital. Police discovered Harris's body the following day, after his concerned co-workers requested a welfare check. Following Al-Muttalaby's arrest, an ex-boyfriend wrote in a social media post, "He's crazy. I'm just glad he is out of my life." Al-Muttalaby initially pleaded not guilty. He remained in county lockup for the next 7 years as the case played out in court, and in 2024 he pleaded guilty to second-degree murder in exchange for a sentence of 15 years to life. As a condition of the agreement, he waived any credit for time served. Number 7. Kirstyn Paquet, aka Crystal Clear. Late one night in March of 2019, a sheriff's patrol sergeant spotted 3 suspicious individuals in a Fillmore, California neighborhood. Later identified as 32-year-old adult performer Kirstyn Paquet, also known as Crystal Clear, 31-year-old Alexander Scalish, and 44-year-old Gerald Klassen. The trio were trying to steal an RV that was being advertised for sale along a roadside. Scalish told the sergeant that he had just purchased the RV, while Klassen and Paquet claimed that they were simply helping him hook the vehicle up to his trailer hitch. While the sergeant scoped out the scene, Scalish fled on foot and managed to evade capture. Klassen and Paquet remained at the scene, and it was soon discovered that the RV did not belong to any of the suspects. The trailer's owner confirmed that it belonged to him and that he had parked it next to the road, but that he had not sold it yet. Additionally, the truck Scalish was driving had recently been reported stolen out of Los Angeles. Klassen and Paquet were booked into custody on suspicion of unlawful taking of a vehicle and conspiracy to commit a crime, and Scalish was later apprehended on the same charges. Number 6. Michael Swayze. In June of 2022, adult performer Michael Swayze was accused of stealing a taxi on the Las Vegas Strip with a passenger inside and going on a destructive joyride. The 23-year-old sped off in the cab shortly after 11 a.m. while its driver was helping a customer with their luggage in the valet area at Bally's. The customer was still in the back seat when Swayze got behind the wheel. As the woman begged to be let go, Swayze pulled over about a mile from the resort where he had stolen the car from, telling her to get out of the car and that it was her only chance. He proceeded to strike multiple vehicles with the stolen taxi while leading law enforcement on a high-speed chase to the Arizona border. After outrunning the cops for more than 60 miles, Swayze ran over a set of spike strips, which effectively disabled the car. He was charged with multiple felonies, including kidnapping, driving under the influence, reckless endangerment, and grand larceny. And he was also facing charges in Arizona at the time. His defense attorney, Chris Rasmussen, blamed his behavior on mental illness, arguing that Swayze lacked the intent necessary for his actions to be considered criminal. Number 5. Ignacio Jorda Gonzalez. 49-year-old Ignacio Jorda Gonzalez, better known as Nacho Vidal, rose to fame as a performer in live adult shows in Barcelona. He went on to star in over 1,500 films and also became a director and producer of the genre. Vidal has encountered a host of legal problems over the years, starting in 2012 when he and his sister were among 80 suspects who were accused of laundering money for the Chinese mob. Investigators claimed that the siblings issued fake invoices from Vidal's entertainment company, and the pair were also accused of participating in a tax evasion scheme with organized criminals. While the outcome of the case is unclear, owing to Spain's highly protective privacy laws, Vidal landed in legal hot water again just a handful of years later, in 2019. This time, Vidal was arrested following the death of fashion photographer Jose Luis Abad, who perished from inhaling toxic toad venom during a ceremony at Vidal's home. Vidal was presiding over the traditional Amazonian ritual in Enguera, Spain, as a shaman when Abad suffered fatal complications from the activity. Authorities charged Vidal, a relative, and one of his employees with manslaughter for failing to summon medical help for Abad in a timely fashion. In 2021, the charge against Vidal was upgraded to reckless homicide due to his role as the director of the ceremony. He was accused of failing to properly monitor the amount of toxin Abad ingested and of supplying the fatal dose, and could have faced up to 4 years in prison in the event of a conviction. In an unexpected turn of events, the charges were dropped in 2023, leaving him a free man. Number 4. Jonathan Oddi. Shortly after the arrest of Sean P. Diddy Combs on a slew of assault and other predatory charges in September 2024, a years-old clip of a former adult performer identifying himself as Diddy's slave surfaced. The X-rated star Jonathan Oddi was arrested in 2018 for allegedly firing a weapon on one of Donald Trump's golf courses. During questioning, Oddi claimed that he had been intimate with Combs and the rap mogul's girlfriend at the time, Cassie Ventura. His description of the activities that supposedly occurred bore eerie similarities to the accounts of Combs' infamous freak-off parties that have circulated since his arrest. Additionally, Oddi said that he had used liquid cocaine with Combs and Ventura, and that he had caught herpes during one of their romps. These claims were never substantiated, and Oddi's behavior was strange enough for investigators to dismiss much of what he said as the product of some sort of mental episode. More than 6 years later, Oddi remains in custody in Miami-Dade on suspicion of attempted murder of law enforcement officers, armed burglary, and armed grand theft. Number 3. Mercedes Carrera. In early 2019, 38-year-old former adult actress Mercedes Carrera and her husband, Jason Whitney, also known as Damon Sins, were arrested at their home in Rancho Cucamonga, California, on a slew of child abuse-related charges. The pair were accused of 11 counts each regarding the specific types of acts they were accused of, as well as methamphetamine possession while armed with a handgun. 6 years later, they both remain behind bars as the case is met with one unexplainable delay after the other. Number 2. Philip Gizzie, aka Bruno Knight. 31-year-old British adult star Philip Gizzie, who goes by the stage name Bruno Knight, was arrested in June of 2014 for trying to smuggle a half-pound of crystal methamphetamine into the United States via Los Angeles International Airport. The drugs were found hidden inside a body cavity, and Gizzie was charged with possession of methamphetamine with intent to distribute. He pleaded guilty later that year, and his attorney implored the judge for leniency, stating that her client wasn't a sophisticated drug user and that the contraband he was caught with was intended for personal use. The prosecution pushed for a 2-year prison sentence, while reminding the court that drug smuggling is a very serious offense. The judge ruled in favor of the prosecution and sentenced Gizzie to 2 years in federal prison, followed by 3 years of federal release. Gizzie apologized to both the court and the United States for his actions during his sentencing hearing, while emphasizing that he was suffering from addiction. At the time of his arrest, he had stopped using in the 5 months since his arrest and expressed gratitude for his newfound sobriety. Stick around after number 1 for our episode about when exotic dancers go wrong. That's coming right up. Number 1. Lauren Wambles, aka Aubrey Gold. 51-year-old Raul Ambrise Guyen was last seen alive at his home in Dothan, Alabama on the 4th of July 2020. He was in the company of 23-year-old adult film star Lauren Wambles, aka Aubrey Gold, the young woman's boyfriend, 35-year-old William Shane Parker, and 43-year-old Jeremy Odell Peters. At some point during the day, Guyen called his ex-wife and asked for money. He said he had gotten mixed up with the wrong people, and he made it clear that he felt unsafe. It was the last anyone would talk to him, and his whereabouts remained a mystery for more than a month. The investigation eventually led to Peters' home in Graceville, Florida, where cadaver dogs found Guyen's heavily decomposed body in a shallow grave. He had been shot in the back of the head, execution style. Parker confessed to pulling the trigger and was charged with second-degree murder, and Wambles and Peters were also arrested in connection with the case. During his trial, Parker took the stand and recanted his confession, claiming he took credit for the murder because he knew that he could handle prison and that Wambles couldn't. He tried to further distance himself from the crime by claiming that he pieced together the story he gave to police based on bits of information he gleaned from his alleged accomplices. Unswayed by Parker's version of events, the jury found him guilty, and he was sentenced to life without the possibility of parole. Peters was convicted of accessory after the fact and conspiring to commit witness tampering, resulting in a 20-year prison sentence. Wambles agreed to testify against her co-defendants and pleaded no contest to accessory after the fact to second-degree murder in exchange for a 10-year prison term. On March the 24th of 2016, Rocky County Sheriff's deputies were called to Diamond Jim's strip club in Janesville, Wisconsin. Dispatchers received a report of a man who'd been bitten in the crotch by one of the adult entertainers in the club. 24-year-old Derek Roth reportedly told responding deputies that he'd given the adult entertainer, 29-year-old Meshiokia White, money to do her thing. Roth explained further that he requested White to put her head into his crotch. He claimed that the woman did so, but later allegedly bit his crotch. When a deputy questioned White, she appeared to be intoxicated and didn't remember what had transpired, a police report stated. However, surveillance footage from inside the club captured the shocking incident and corroborated Roth's story. White was taken into custody and booked into the Rock County Jail on a battery charge. It was unclear if Roth suffered any injuries from the incident and what sort of punishment White received. Number 9. Grace Spoonermore. an intoxicated woman was reportedly trying to seduce a police officer in Brunswick, Ohio, during her hit-and-run traffic stop in April of 2023. It all started when 20-year-old Grace Spoonermore sped off at a green light before slamming into a Chevy Cruze within clear view of the officer. According to a police report, the Georgia native was driving a blue Buick Enclave, which came back with felony warrants attached when the officer checked its license plate. When Spoonermore appeared to be fleeing, the officer followed her and eventually pulled her over. The officer noted that Spoonermore appeared disoriented, with slurred speech and bloodshot eyes. She initially denied being under influence, but when another officer responded, she admitted to having had 6 drinks. After being put in handcuffs, Spooner was asked if she had anything on her that the officers should be aware of, to which she responded, "I don't know, you want to check me?" When she was asked about her current address, she refused to give it. Body cam footage from the arrest showed that as the officer was telling her to get into the police car, she called him a handsome man and said, "You feel some type of way 'cause my leg ain't in the car?" The woman later said that she was an exotic dancer. When one of the officers was filling out paperwork for the arrest, Spoonermore allegedly spat on him. While officers were taking her to the police station, she threatened to urinate on the officer's face, saying she'd do it only if he liked it. She ultimately did pee her pants in the back seat of the cruiser, claiming she couldn't help it. Inside the police station, she repeatedly attempted to take off her pants while waiting for her mugshot to be taken. As Spoonermore continued to ignore instructions from the officer, she told him that she'd be okay with getting tasered because she liked it kinky. In the end, she was arrested on suspicion of speeding, operating a vehicle under the influence, obstructing official business, and simple assault on an officer. Medina County court records indicated that she was also charged with at least 1 count of harassment with a bodily substance, purportedly for spitting on the officer. The video of the incident went viral on YouTube, amassing more than 1 million views in September of 2023. As of the latest update, Spoonermore's criminal trial was set to begin in October of 2023. Number 8. Olivia Bennett. At around 5:30 a.m. on March the 29th of 2015, a Canadian tourist was critically injured after a hit-and-run near King of Diamonds nightclub in Miami, Florida. Alexander San Juan had traveled to Miami for a music festival. The 22-year-old was walking away from the aforementioned club when a blue BMW 328i, which was reportedly speeding through the intersection of Northwest 178th Street and Northwest 5th Avenue, hit him. The driver of the vehicle, later identified as 26-year-old exotic dancer Olivia Bennett, who worked at the nightclub, allegedly drove off and later dumped her damaged vehicle. Sangwan sustained a blow to the head and was taken to the trauma unit of Jackson Memorial Hospital, where he was placed in a medically induced coma. His shoulder and leg were also left shattered, while other parts of his body suffered lacerations, NBC News reported. After the incident, police found Bennett's car, which had damage consistent to what was found at the crash site. The car had been abandoned in the parking lot of another nightclub at 150 Northwest 183rd Street. An arrest report stated that Bennett turned herself in the following day. She was facing several charges, including leaving the scene of a crash and reckless driving. A day later, Bennett was released from jail after posting a $12,500 bond. According to Sangwan's family, he was moved from the intensive care unit in mid-April and was expected to recover within 2 years. Records indicate that Bennett was convicted of leaving the scene of a crash with serious injury and was sentenced to 4 years of community control probation. Number 7. Paige Nicole Merritt. A Florida police officer from the Sunrise Police Department, together with his girlfriend, was caught selling marijuana from their home. The officer, 27-year-old Joseph Rodriguez Santiago, was cited late in September of 2013 for possession of marijuana and drug paraphernalia. He was then placed on administrative leave, and eventually he resigned from his position. His girlfriend, 21-year-old Paige Nicole Merritt, was facing 2 felony charges after she allegedly sold marijuana to a confidential informant on 2 different occasions, during which the informant was wearing an audio and video monitoring device. On the second occasion, Rodriguez Santiago was present as well. Merritt reportedly sold a total of $60 worth of marijuana to the informant. On September the 25th, police obtained a search warrant for the home. Upon arrival at the home, they stopped Merritt, who was about to leave. Upon stopping her, Detectives immediately smelled marijuana and asked her if she had any on her. Subsequently, she pulled 2 plastic bags containing marijuana from underneath her bra. Merritt admitted she was on her way to the Goldfinger Gentlemen's Club, where she worked as an exotic dancer, to sell the marijuana. An arrest report indicated that marijuana, a scale, plastic bags, a drug grinder, and smoking clips were found inside the home. Merritt was taken to jail, while Rodriguez Santiago was issued a notice to appear in court. It never became clear if the couple were convicted of the charges against them and if they served any jail time. But Rodriguez Santiago never returned to his job as a police officer. Number 6. Willow Martin. In July of 2016, 19-year-old Willow Martin from Naugatuck, Connecticut, was accused of setting fire to a business after a potato had incriminated her with the crime. Apparently, the fire stemmed from a plot to get back at her former best friend, Breonna Constantino. Martin and Constantino worked as exotic dancers at a strip club in Southington, but they had a falling out over money. Martin had lent $1,200 to Constantino during a trip in the summer of 2015 so that the latter could buy some new clothes, according to an arrest warrant. However, when Constantino wasn't able to pay her the complete amount back, Martin allegedly planned to burn down the construction business that belonged to Constantino's stepfather. In the early hours of September the 15th of 2015, the business located on Waterbury Road in Prospect was set ablaze. At approximately 5 a.m., the fire department responded and extinguished the fire. When Constantino's stepfather was alerted about the fire, he was about to drive over when he found a potato in his vehicle's tailpipe. Once at the scene, he handed it over to the authorities. The potato was then processed for DNA, tying it to Martin's boyfriend, Matthew Garguillo, aged 28. On July the 7th of 2016, law enforcement served an active arrest warrant on Garguillo, who was already incarcerated on an unrelated matter. When he was questioned by the police, he told them that Martin was the one who'd placed the potato in the exhaust pipe. He admitted being there with her at the business, but claimed that Martin was the one who set the fire using a can of gasoline and a flaming napkin. He also told officers about Martin and Constantino's falling out and how it had motivated the crime. For his involvement, Garguillo was charged with conspiracy to commit arson, conspiracy to commit criminal mischief, and conspiracy to commit possession of a burglar's tool. He was held in custody on a $20,000 bond. On July the 12th, Martin herself was arrested on several charges, including burglary, criminal mischief, possession of burglar's tools, and 5 counts of conspiracy. She was held on a $110,000 bond. In May of 2018, Martin was sentenced to 8 years in prison after pleading guilty to second-degree arson. She would be required to serve 8 years of special parole after serving her time behind bars. It is unclear if Garguillo was found guilty of any of the charges in connection to the incident. Number 5. Shauna Miller. In Las Vegas, Nevada, 28-year-old Shauna Miller was handed a 5 to 15-year prison sentence on September the 16th of 2014 for a DUI crash that killed a man. The ordeal unfolded at around 7:30 a.m. on March the 23rd, 2013, when Miller drove through a red light at the intersection of Spring Mountain and Wynn Roads. Subsequently, the woman crashed her 2003 Hummer into a 1997 Ford Escort, driven by James White, aged 33. In the aftermath, White succumbed to his injuries and his toddler son, who was in the back seat, survived but sustained bruises and a skull fracture. According to the prosecutor, there were no tire marks at the intersection, noting that Miller didn't attempt to brake. Miller told responding officers that she'd taken Xanax and drank 2 beers at Spearmint Rhino Gentlemen's Club on Highland Drive, where she worked as an exotic dancer. After failing 2 stages of a sobriety test, she was arrested. In July of 2014, Miller pleaded guilty to driving under the influence of alcohol, resulting in death and substantial bodily harm. During her sentencing hearing, the court heard that at the time of the incident, Miller's blood alcohol level was more than twice the legal limit and that she had marijuana in her system. The Las Vegas Review-Journal reported that Miller apologized to the victim's family, saying, "I'm very, very sorry." White's mother responded, not in this lifetime. Miller was also ordered to pay more than $40,000 in fines and restitution. After serving her 5 to 15-year sentence, Miller would be required to drive with an alcohol monitoring device for 3 years. Number 4. Brittany Curry. 55-year-old Missouri man Ralph Edward Cross was found dead at his home in Wilson City on the morning of August the 1st of 2017. Investigators determined Cross had died from a gunshot wound to the middle of his back. No weapon was found at the scene, but investigators did find a 9mm shell casing. Investigators said that furniture inside the home was disarranged and the victim's pockets had been turned inside out, pointing to a possible robbery. As the investigation continued, a witness came forward to report seeing Cross and a woman in the former's vehicle just hours before his death. Later, investigators lifted a latent fingerprint from the front passenger window of his car. Captain Barry Morgan with the Mississippi County Sheriff's Office stated in the probable cause statement that more witnesses claimed to have seen Cross assist 4 women in fixing the flat tire on their car. Apparently, Cross had offered them shelter in his home while he bought a new tire for them. One of the witnesses told the investigators that the last time he saw Cross was shortly before 7 a.m. on August the 1st. He added that he'd seen one of the women outside Cross's home in a white vehicle, and the other 3 were inside arguing with Cross. The witness claimed to have heard a noise and then noticed the 3 females hurrying out of the house before getting into a white car and driving away. On August the 3rd, the Missouri State Highway Patrol's crime laboratory identified the latent fingerprint from Cross's car as belonging to Letitia Dotson, aged 23. That same day, Dotson, along with 28-year-old Brittany Curry, 23-year-old Ponesha Taylor, and 19-year-old Jonisha Simmons, turned themselves into police custody. The police determined that the women were adult entertainers who'd been in Missouri after allegedly advertising escort services online. The women told the officers that they'd been at Cross's home but stated that he was alive when they left. Captain Morgan separately interviewed the women. 2 of him told him that Curry was the one who fatally shot the victim. All 4 women were then held in custody without bail on charges of first-degree murder, armed criminal action, and unlawful use of a weapon. They all pleaded not guilty to the charges during their initial court appearance on August the 9th. In October of 2019, Curry had pleaded guilty to second-degree murder in the shooting death of Cross and was sentenced to 16 years behind bars. It is unclear if any of the other women pleaded guilty as well, or if any of them were even convicted. Number 3. Lydia Leon Bertuccia Maria. Lydia Leon Bertuccia Maria, who worked as an adult entertainer at a nightclub in Largo, Florida, was arrested after she allegedly stole $1,300 from a patron's wallet. The incident took place at the Atlantis Gentlemen's Club on the 11600 block of 66th Street on the night of July the 14th of 2018. According to an arrest report, 26-year-old Maria was giving a private dance to the male patron. During the private dance, Maria took 65 $20 bills from the man's wallet without his permission. Subsequently, she attempted to leave the club but was stopped by security. Law enforcement were then called to the location. Maria reportedly admitted to stealing the money and was booked into the Pinellas County Jail on a charge of grand theft. Records indicated that she was released on her own recognizance. Number 2. Hustlers. On January the 8th of 2016, 2 exotic dancers who were part of a ring that scammed wealthy clients were sentenced in Manhattan Supreme Court. Marcy Rosen and Karina Pascucci, aged 29 and 27 respectively, were sentenced to weekends in jail for 4 months and 5 years probation after pleading guilty to conspiracy, assault, and grand larceny. According to the City Office of the Special Narcotics Prosecutor, the women drugged their clients and drove them to various New York City gentlemen's clubs. There, they stripped the clients of their credit cards, racked up thousands in charges, and later blackmailed those victims who threatened to go to the police. The initial crimes occurred between September of 2013 and December of 2013. The ring was busted when one victim contacted the DEA, causing the agency to set up a sting operation. law enforcement started tracking their activities in 2014, and eventually Rosen and Pascucci were arrested along with the ringleaders Rosalind Keogh and Samantha Barbash. In March of 2016, 31-year-old Keogh pleaded guilty to grand larceny and attempted assault in exchange for 5 years of probation. 41-year-old Barbash was also given 5 years of probation after pleading guilty to conspiracy, assault, and grand larceny. Their story was later adapted into a film. It was titled Hustlers and opened to $33.1 million at the domestic box office in 2019. Number 1. Violating San Antonio's ordinance. Texas law enforcement in San Antonio arrested 4 dancers at a gentleman's club on February the 5th, 2015 for allegedly revealing a little bit too much skin, as reported by the Times-Union. According to a San Antonio Police Department report, undercover police officers went to Sugar's Club on the Northwest Loop to investigate a complaint about possible escort services being offered at the club. Upon entering the club, they reportedly saw 2 dancers pulling down the waistband of their thongs and revealing the crevice of their buttocks, which violated the city ordinance prohibiting nudity in erotic-oriented businesses. The report also stated that 2 other women who appeared to be entertainers were also showing their natal clefts while standing near a bar. The 4 women, namely Jessica Lynn Mastbergen, Julie Marie Marks, Aurora Junco, and Nora Isela Gerdes, were taken into custody on a charge of violating the city ordinance. 2 managers of the club, Enrique Avalar and Albert Cortez, were also arrested for failing to comply with the ordinance. Thanks for watching. If you had to choose, would you rather never be able to watch Netflix or X-rated content again for the rest of your life? Let us know your choice in the comments below.